Accelerate your dealership's success. This is the Car Guy Simple Podcast. Powered by PMD. Here's your hosts, Joe Levine and Eaman McMillian.
Welcome back. I'm Joe Levine.
I'm Eaman McMillian.
Welcome. So let's just dive right in, right? We already know what we're here to talk about. Anything in the car business, retail, let's go. What do we got?
All right. First step today is we got bad manufacturer incentives.
Ah, yes. And, that's such an interesting one because that title could go in a bunch of different ways. Is it bad based on what we think if we were in a Ford store, a Nissan store, whatever. So is it what we judge is bad? Is it what the consumer judges is bad? Is it what the press decides is bad and weak? Is weak considered bad? Is bad considered not good enough? There's all of this undertow, right?
Right.
What we forget sometimes, and I think we said this in the past, right? We're not our customer, at least not all the time. And sometimes we mistake an incentive that was put out by a manufacturer as being bad when any manufacturer's incentive isn't bad. It's how we use it. If we use it in a way that doesn't properly promote the dealership brand and the manufacturer brand, then we blew it at the tier 3 level. We just blew it, right? It's a conundrum, nevertheless. And we see that a lot now, right? Because incentives today are nowhere near what they were before COVID.
Right.
And a lot of people are a little upset, maybe blown up over this in the retail community. We don't have enough on the hood of the vehicle, or it's made it impossible to do this or that, or the type of purchase more people are buying than leasing because leasing isn't what it used to be. And we'll get into lease versus buy and how to maybe some little sales training in further episodes. But for today, is a bad incentive bad because it's not good enough in our eyes? If the consumer says that, and we have a strong desk, can't we get a TO involved? When you sold cars, how much did you rely on the desk TO your deal? A lot? Or did you basically have to close it all out yourself?
We had a policy where manager or GM had to talk to everybody before you left.
So everybody touches the
Everything was a TO. No matter what, everything was a TO.
Right. So nothing's changed in stores. I mean, once in a while we'll see a store that is cradle to grave. The salesperson does everything. There's no TO involved. For the most part, that's not really the case. Or it had stopped being the case once consumers were just coming in to buy. Most stores today are noticing that more and more people are not always just coming in to buy. They're coming in to be sold, which puts pressure on our sales process, all of our steps, and all that other stuff. The core issue that we hear, right, is that beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. The same thing goes for incentives. It's not good enough. We can't advertise that. Well, if it's an incentive that's good for the region that we're doing business in, good based on that's as good as it's going to get from the manufacturer, it's our job to figure out how to keep the wheels rolling, how to work around the constraint. I mean, anybody could sell cars with 10 grand on the hood in cash, a free flying car, and 72 other rebates, right?
Right.
I mean, anybody could do that. It's the art of the sale kicks in when somebody comes in to be sold, and we go through the process. And if they don't buy on the first visit, B-backs, right? B-backs, 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 right? Right. But the process really helps drive the incentives or lack thereof. The other problem is problems have no solutions is when we forget the law. In the United States, the Federal Trade Commission says that we can't stack. So if we take the manufacturer rebate on the hood of the vehicle, and we also, to calculate an ad payment to induce people to come in, it's false inducement, because if we stack on top of the money that anybody qualifies for on the hood of the vehicle, and you have to be a first responder, a NASA pilot, astronaut, whatever, a realtor, an armed forces person, you served in the military, and a realtor or whatever, right? And you put all those on top of each other to get the lowest payment in the community, that's stacking.
Right.
Is that the definition of a bad incentive or a bad incentive grouping?
I don't think it's the definition of a bad incentive grouping. You can't put them all together.
Well, you can, but you're going to get written up for it.
You're gonna get written up for
You're going to get fined.
You can't. I guess what I'm trying to say is you can't advertise it. But if they're choosing those specific incentives to advertise to apply one of them to an individual, they're doing it for a reason because they have the data and they know that that is an opportunity that could be taken advantage of, and it's up to the salespeople to figure out how to make that happen.
Not to make this into a paid, you're right, not to turn this into a paid political announcement. Or am I? I don't know. Our ad agency, PMD, shops all facing competitors of a dealership client or dealership group twice a month so that we can tell whether or not the payments that our client is presenting to the buying public is competitive or not. Because at the end of the day, who makes the decision to take delivery of the vehicle, us or the consumer?
Consumer.
Right. So we need some type of competitive something to get the consumer to pay attention to us. Because really, if you think about it, it's all about getting the dealership, right? Getting us, if I'm sitting in a dealership, right, on that consumer's list of stores to shop. Mm-hmm. I'm not suggesting that anybody is so smart that consumers are like, well, we don't need this one, and we don't need that one, and we don't need the other one. We're only going to go to see Bob. That's silly. In the alternative, though, if we at least get Bob on the list to get to shop, have we done our job to get that bad incentive promoted?
If you get Bob on the list,
right?
Yeah. If you get Bob on the list, then yeah. But I mean, the ultimate goal is to present something that's attractive enough that's going to get him in the door,
right?
So that BDC can do his job, get him through the door, and then salespeople can run from there.
It's not as simple as it was a few short years ago when nobody had anything and people would drive and pick up whatever. Now there's freedom of choice and there's inventory and there's all kinds of stuff going on. And even when inventory drops, people that are owning their vehicles, so they'll order it. What's the difference? They'll wait. Having said that, a bad incentive by itself is either what we think it is, good or bad, or how we improperly utilize that incentive or groups of incentives. And, well, I guess the third swim lane is potentially that the consumer thinks, right, that it's a bad incentive. I'm going to wait and see what comes out next month. Or they come in the store and they're just not happy with the numbers, and we have to engage our be-back process to continue to find out what's really on their mind.
Well, some customers will be open to it and some customers won't. If it's a bad incentive, some of them, you get them in front of your desk and you're able to, they're looking at, say, 0% on a Sentra, and they're like, why isn't there 0% on their Armada? That's the one I want. Well, the situation with that car is differently. Yeah. The situation with that car is different. And so you're going to have to be able to educate the consumer and reframe that from there.
Right. Too much coffee.
Too much coffee. Yeah.
Got it.
Too much coffee.
But there's no incentive for coffee. So
no, exactly. So
role play this with me. You be the consumer. Right. And when I get to asking you, you're going to tell me, I don't think this is incentive. Tell you. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Eaman, you've been really great. And before I let you go, can I ask you for a favor?
Of course.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
If we put where you, because you said you want to wait, you want to go home, you want to talk about it, you want to think on it.
Wife's got to know.
Everybody's got to know, right? A good decision is a good decision when everybody votes yes, or most people at least. You got to have a majority vote, right? Yeah. So let me ask you this. On a 10 scale, right? With 0 being, I will never buy a car from an old bald guy just like you, right? 0 chance of selling me a car. And 10 being, you've checked every box and you've gotten it done and you've gotten it nailed and can I take it home now? Where are you in that 10 scale?
Well, if the incentive was better, I'd be at a 10, but because the incentive is garbage, I'm going to be at, I have to say, at 3.
So we got 7 points to pick up, and it's only that incentive thing that if we found a way to make that better for you somehow, where we're able to find some additional savings, whether it's maybe the way you're going to have to bring the vehicle in for service and pay for it, or the payment, or some other component that helps get that incentive thing in your mind to be at least an 8.
At least an 8. I mean, I just don't understand why the Prius has an extra like $500 on it, and this 4Runner, is lacking in that department.
TV timeout?
Yeah.
I'm hearing a TO. That's what I'm hearing. Because you can go to the boss and go,
Okay.
here's the roadmap. Help me get this done.
Mm.
So that makes sense, right? Okay. All right. Well, I think we've discussed the incentive thing to the degree that we can at the moment. What do you think we should talk about next?
We do have another subject to cover.
Let's go.
All right. Seasonal purchasing cycles.
So 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and beyond, right? We had a situation where leasing was not as front and center as it became. I mean, I've been in this business a really long time. Matter of fact, at one point in my career, I was training half a car, which was an old Ford program, how you're not going to pay the pay half the MSRP. It was a lease discussion, and teaching people how to lease, convert, and all that other stuff was important to do, right? So now, fast forward, because of market conditions and pandemics and other stuff, a lot of people made a decision to either buy their vehicle out of their lease and own it, or they decided that they weren't happy with the incentives to lease the vehicle and they bought it, and they stuffed themselves, or we helped them. Here's a shoehorn and 84 months of payments. Isn't this great? And trying to get them out in some type of equity play in service drive where they're only 3 years into an 36 months into an 84-month loan, may not exactly be a calm conversation, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so in that case.
So what we've seen is a combination of what I call legitimized delays in the consumer's mind, right? Legitimized delays that are created because the consumer doesn't see enough reasons to get out of what they're already driving, right? And then, because what do we know about car people? We are the masters of the universe when it comes to, it's snowing, it's raining, whatever the excuse was why business wasn't great on a particular day, weekend, week, whatever, right? And it's very easy to fall back on that stuff. And some of it now is true, and it harkens back to where we were a couple of decades ago, because seasonality is playing a role. If you own your vehicle, right?
Right, I do.
You do own your vehicle. So you didn't lease it, you bought it.
No, I finance it, yeah.
Okay, all right. If I could show you a way to get out of that vehicle, pay off your trade, get into a new one at a similar or lower payment, I bet you consider it today, right?
Yeah, probably.
Only kidding. I'm only kidding. Not really. So if you owned your vehicle and it was time and you were thinking, and then you're engaged to be married, right?
Yes.
So, see what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So what if you and your fiance said, we should really think about it. If you own your vehicle, you're thinking differently. If you're leasing, you're pressed into thinking, right? And you look outside and it's snowing out. Are you going to go and look to get spot delivered in a vehicle in the snow? Even if you're in a snow belt where, I don't know, Rochester, New York, somewhere in the Midwest, it's just snow, maybe a little less sensitive to it. But for the most part, would you want to take it home and have to weave in and out of plows? Or would you wait for a non-weather, everything's a weather event today, right?
Yeah.
A non-weather event day. Which would you do?
I mean, I don't really want to drive my new car home in the salt and the sand and everything and just have immediately get it all messed up.
Yeah. And that is certainly a situation.
Yeah.
Situations always have solutions. Just because the consumer may not be down with it doesn't mean we shut down for the day or the week or the weekend. We still have vehicles to sell. There are still ways to sell vehicles to people without them coming in initially. We can at least engage in a conversation. But seasonality, having said that, right? Seasonality is here to stay as market conditions continue to drive people's ability to use that as a sword and a shield.
Mm-hmm.
They can use what the temperature and weather situation is to help drive their decision as to when they're going to come in. So we need to be sensitive to that. And there's nothing wrong with it unless we what? Get them in the building. Unless we get in front of them, or we bring it to them, or they come to us, or whatever the scenario. Our goal, right, in the car business, in the retail car business, whether it's new or used, CPO, whatever, is to understand that the goal is to be discussing a vehicle. How we do it is the creativity that we use as salespeople.
Being able to tell the story.
Correct.
That's what we're doing.
So once people give us the ability to tell the story and go through the process, the better off we're going to be, as opposed to getting mad at somebody because it's, I don't know, 20 below with the wind chill. And the worst one I remember, getting off a plane to see a client, it was 60 below with the wind chill, and they had to put us onto the tarmac, and I had to go down the stairs. I hit the tarmac, and that wind caught me, and I thought I got railed by Tyson.
That's how my dad lived in Wyoming, and it would be like negative like 10 degrees, and you go outside, and it's like, oh my God, this sucks.
It does.
Yeah.
But that resident, your dad, was used to it. So for him, it was a way of life. No wonder you're a pond hockey guy. You must have played pond hockey when you were a little guy.
Well, no, because I grew up in Seattle, so there was not really, it only froze over like once. Yeah, it only froze over once. And honestly, it did make my dad miserable enough that he moved to New Mexico. So immediately as soon as he retired.
Well, the rain would screw up the ice too.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Did you have 4 a.m. practice ice times?
I did. Well, I was like 4 a.m. I used to go to practice before school, and that was, oh my God.
Gotcha.
You know.
Gotcha. So seasonal stuff is what we have to pay attention to. That doesn't mean we even, just one final thought before we move on, right? The temperature is falling and so are the rates. The temperature is falling and so are the prices. The plants are growing and so are the incentives. That's not seasonal. That's just puffery. That's not the beef that we're talking about, right?
It's fluff.
It is fluff. Fluff. All right. Well, I think we've reached an end to this segment.
I think so too. I think it's time for a little quick break. It's time for a quick break, and then, we'll be right back.
A little quick break.
Break.
Sure, why not? We'll see you in a minute.
Awesome.
Thank you.
This podcast is powered by PMD. Our full-service ad agency specializes in providing creative solutions for new car dealerships looking to sell more vehicles, increase service numbers, and promote their brand image more effectively. We use our experience in television, OTT, digital, social media, and more to anticipate challenges and find effective market-dominating solutions so that our dealership partners can thrive in an ever-changing landscape. You can learn more at pmdusa.com.
Welcome back to CGS, Car Guys Simple. All right, we got our next topic on hand, and that's leasing versus financing.
That's a good one.
I think so too.
That's a good one.
I think there's a lot to talk about there. I don't think we have enough hours in the day to talk about leasing versus financing.
Well, let's try.
But we're going to get it done.
Is it the 24-hour marathon episode?
No, this is Car Guys Simple. This is cutting it down into 10 minutes. We're making it happen in a short period of time. That's what we're doing.
I had somebody ask me the other day after they've been paying attention to us. I thought CGS meant car guys. And I was like, no, it's simple. It's simple.
It's simple.
This is an interesting one, right? Because salespeople many, many years ago pretty much dealt with financing, with buying. People either came in and wrote a check in full, or they financed it, or whatever. And then this thing leasing came, right? And then leasing became a thing, and how do you sell leasing? And so there was training, and there was courses, and there were people like me out there teaching people how to lease. I'm sure, people paying attention to us right now, you've either been through a training program, or you were maybe conducting your own training program as the trainer, or both. Really, it's hard, especially on a new salesperson. They're trying to learn the steps to the sale, and they're trying to get through all of that. Then they're trying to learn their product. And then the new salesperson is trying to understand how to, right? Because most new salespeople are convinced that the close, we teach a 10-step sales process when we get involved in that stuff. And step 8 is the close. So the first 7 things are very important, like guest ride and all this other good stuff, right? Really important. And then they get to step 8, and the new salesperson, you watch them, they lock up because they think that's the most important step. And you ask the new salesperson, why is it the most important step? Because that's when I get paid. No, you get paid when you conduct a proper meet and greet when you first meet somebody, right? And then it kind of goes from there. right? It's not like you walked up to the bar and asked your now fiance to marry you, and she was like, "Okay."
Yeah, no, that's definitely
Because if that worked,
not what happened.
if that worked,
Definitely.
there's a book in you to write, right? So,
Yeah.
it's we know that the basics, right? When we explain leasing versus financing, is that when you lease a vehicle, you're only paying for the period of time, right, that you're driving the vehicle. Everybody knows that. It's explaining how to get there, and rather than break out a chart and show the graph and how we sell that, and which we can always do down the road, or if somebody's interested in that, I'll be more than happy to send you a little video segment or something if you want. Just let us know. We'll help you with that. But a lease conversion isn't really a lease conversion anymore. It's more of a payment necessity. Back in the day, we talked about lease conversions, taking somebody out of a finance payment and getting them into a lease, because the lease is going to be less money out of their pocket, lower monthly payment, or the same money out of pocket and a substantially lower monthly payment than a finance, right?
Right.
You went through that training.
Exactly.
Okay. So, but now it's more of a payment necessity, right? Because last time I checked, stuff is a lot less money than it used to cost. Yeah, no.
Yeah, big surprise. Definitely no.
Right. Whether it's eggs, a house, a car, that hat you're wearing, nothing is what it used to cost, right? So now we're talking about down payment, comfort, and thresholds coupled with payment. So our job is to allow the consumer the opportunity to come up with a payment that works best for them. Now, pre-COVID, a lot of our clients were in the 80 to 90 percentile bracket or range in terms of lease penetration. Out of 100% of what they delivered on a monthly basis, 80 to 90% of it was leased. And you got into that cycle, and more people realized, why would I buy a depreciating asset? And then market conditions changed, and those very market conditions changed for a real reason, and a good one, right? In the consumer's eyes, I'm better off to buy my vehicle so I can stabilize where things are. And then you bring in the payment bump.
The payment bump, that's a big one, because there was that period of time where you get a really good lease.
And all manufacturers have gone through it. I mean, just pick one, Honda, right? So people have leased 3 Honda Accords in a row and everything was great. And then they come in and it's $85 more a month.
Yeah.
$95, $110 more a month, whatever the number is. That's substantial. And I don't have any more money to put down. You're forcing me to go leave Honda. And if they shop that as a potential solution, most everybody is grouped in the same way based on category of vehicle, right? So it's not like somebody is at $69 a month and everybody else is at $5.25. That's not the case, right? So when we talk about payment bumps and payment bump acceptance, it's a function of getting enough under your belt before you get to step 8. See, here's where we get back to the sales process. We teach meet and greet, qualify, select a vehicle, guest ride, presentation, sell service, appraisal. Those 7 before we get to sell the money. Selling the money should be 15 minutes. If we built enough value in ourselves, our dealership, our company, our dealership, and our product, by the time we get to selling the money, the discussion of lease versus finance comes up if an alternative is warranted.
It's going to be much easier to get through.
Your last 3 vehicles, Eaman, were they leased or purchased?
I've had, they were both purchased.
They were both purchased. Why do you say that?
They're both purchased. Well, one because I was broke. I only had like $2,500, and so I bought like it was a shit box. It was bad. And then the other one, I wanted a more reliable car. And I knew that I probably coming out of college wouldn't be financially stable. And so I wanted to stabilize my payment, and I could get my payment to be right up around where the lease was going to be anyways. So why not lock that in for 72 months rather than, the 36? Right.
So the average new salesperson that's still getting themselves comfortable is going to call for a TV timeout, run to the desk. They said that they bought their last 3 vehicles. Well, I told you to go back and sell a lease. Well, I told them that they could get more for less, and I told them that they're only paying for the period of time they're driving the vehicle. And I told them, come on, come with me. Eaman, my name's Joe. My name's Joe. Welcome, go. I'm not letting go yet. All right, I'll let go now. So let me ask you a question. If I can show you value and a different way to be able to afford a monthly payment on the exact vehicle you want, would you consider it?
I think so, yeah.
And then we get into the lease conversation, right? If we had enough time to really go over how to sell a lease, because all we're doing is selling an alternative to financing. It's just money. Money has no emotion. And maybe we'll do that. You know what? We should maybe do that at another episode where we can devote more time to it. The short version is, if we understand what makes up a lease, and we understand even if somebody's always bought, I've always bought 47 vehicles in a row, but I only want to come up with this and I need to be here. And most people in the country will tell you that the common offer to the desk, regardless of what the advertised number is, I want to pay $0 down and I want $300 a month. And I mean, in other words, if you're talking about a range, obviously, or something highline, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But for the mainstream stuff, that's what most desk people, and you might be laughing if you're watching or listening to this, if I'm right. And sometimes it's even less.
$300 a month, I'll see you at $600.
Yeah.
$0 down on the lease now?
Yeah. So there's many ways to have the conversation be a positive for both the consumer and the salesperson and the dealership. The idea here is to not give up on the fact that regardless of what the incentives are, which ties back to the first piece of this particular episode, no matter how good or bad we think the incentives are, if we had no incentives whatsoever, the price to value conversation is completely different than we have any money. If there's $1 on the hood of this vehicle that we can take advantage of to lower a payment or a purchase price or both, right? It's worth having that discussion, because could you imagine if we didn't have that $1,000 on the hood of your car today, Eaman?
Not good.
Well, it probably would not be fun.
No, I don't think so.
The fun kind of goes out of the
it kind of just becomes miserable and painful, right? It's just like,
right. So when we talk about that lease versus finance thing, and again, we should devote more time to this maybe down the road, where we physically get into how to sell a lease or a conversion to a lease. But for right now, there's plenty of really qualified people out there that understand this. And managers didn't become managers because they showed up to work. Everybody knows with experience more than 2 years what the value of a lease is. And leasing is not for everybody. If it was, when lease portfolios were so strong, 100% would be leased. You know, we've seen stores in the 90s percentile range, but now as things continue to get more and more challenging in the financial decision-making process, whether it's a guitar, a cup, a vehicle, a microphone, it doesn't matter. Alternate ways to finance something makes sense. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Would you rather invest in a depreciating asset, right? Or would you rather pay for the time you're using it, have a lower payment, and you're going to make a payment either way, right? I mean, years ago, I remember when I was a kid, you know, a Chevy Caprice was $5,000, $7,000, whatever it was. People took out 12 or 18-month financing and they paid it off. Now, I got a great idea. We get to your payment with 84 months and you're going to own the vehicle. And I'll never see you for 84 months. That's a whole different conversation, right?
It is a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
All right, so that comes to the end of leasing and financing.
It does. It does.
So we're going to take a quick TV timeout. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you guys back here in a few.
See you in a minute.
In an article written by S&P Global, in 2025, lease maturities are projected to drop 41%, equating to nearly 1 million fewer vehicles returned. While this may only be a short-term disruption, dealers who proactively pivot can benefit from this as markets normalize in 2026 and beyond. Find the link in our details to learn more.
And we're back. Welcome back. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about a PMD favorite, right? One of our favorites here in our ad agency, PMD, is digital versus broadcast versus physical media.
Physical media.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. Let's get into it.
The first thing to recognize is, right, so digital could be anything from the dealership website to SEM or PPC, SEO, coding, programmatic stuff, anything in the digital space, versus broadcast, which could be broadcast television, it could be cable television, it could be OTT or over the top. In our world, OTT is just a method to deliver a television commercial. It is not, under any circumstances, what we consider to be a digital play, because people are streaming on their television through their ISP, right, their internet service provider, an ability to watch whatever television show they watch. You could argue that that's digitally delivered, but at the end of the day, it's a television show and a television commercial.
Exactly.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Other broadcasts would be terrestrial radio. We consider satellite radio to not be a digital play because it's radio. It comes across a radio speaker. That means it's radio, right? Or it comes,
format.
or your desktop or your phone or whatever, right? Just like if you're listening to this podcast right now. Is this pod digital, or is it considered a television show or a radio program? This is where it gets important to understand and differentiate and put your own thoughts into your own swim lanes.
It's going to depend on the platforms.
It is.
Depend on how the people are going to experience the media.
is.
That's the difference.
When we talk about physical media, that's a term, actually, give credit where credit's due, your invention. And I love it, right? Because that is a catch-all. Physical media, billboards, people that are tactile, right? Direct mail, and things that are considered physical, that you can touch, that you can see, that are not in the digital space.
It's not magic dust on the airwaves. It's
you didn't tell me.
It's not magic dust.
Wait, why not?
Well, because there's no electricity going through. It's static. It's there.
So Chris Angel was wrong?
Chris Angel scares me. I don't want to talk about him.
Chris, if you're listening to this, man, we love you a lot. Just try to bring the dust thing going. We'll sell more cars. Just saying.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. So the issue that we see when we're given an opportunity to talk with somebody, right, is that sometimes we see things being very splintered. So broadcast is talking about this, and digital is talking about that, and physical is talking about this. And when the consumer comes into the dealership, and what's the most frustrating, difficult thing in the world from an advertising perspective in a store? Sourcing traffic. That's why we coach our clients, right? The end-all be-all question. Amy, let me ask you this. What was the most recent piece of advertising that motivated you to come see us today?
Probably the Instagram advertisement.
Versus, right? Versus, so what brought you in today? I was just driving by. I know you've been here forever. I was just driving by. I don't even want that in a CRM. Drive-by. Drive-by to me is not sourcing. Drive-by is the easiest way to click something to go get the desking process started and sell the money. That's all that does, right? What was the most recent piece of advertising that motivated you to come see us today? Now, if we are splintered, we have to rely on the consumer remembering, well, was it the billboard message? Was it the direct mail message, which wasn't the same? Was it the television thing? I think I heard them on radio. Top of mind awareness, TOMA, goes right out the window, right?
Right.
Versus non-splintered marketing campaigns that, regardless of media type, are on the same pulse. And my mother was an opera singer. I grew up in a musical house. When I wasn't on the field playing ball, and I wasn't working at my dad's dealerships, I was playing a lot of music, live music especially, and there's a cadence to that. And when the metronome is click, 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 and maybe get a little faster or slower, but if the metronome is going like this, and I'm trying to sing faster or slower than the drummers and the bass player is delivering the cadence, it's probably going to sound a little wonky. Probably.
It's gonna be a little bit out of tune. You're gonna be offbeat.
Well, it's going to screw the song up, that's for sure.
Yeah, right? People on the crowd aren't gonna be too happy with you. I don't think.
So why do we allow that to happen? Well, some of it is maybe representation isn't tying things together, or maybe there's stuff being bought that particular vendor is being able to, or allowed to, not being able to, they're able to because they're allowed to create their own creative, as opposed to one central clearinghouse that controls all messages so they all tie in together. But I mean, we took a group over not that long ago when we came in to pitch the business. I don't know if you remember the 17 slogans. Remember that? I walked in and I took a black presentation board and I put it on the easel. And they were like, we all know this. I said, you know, there's 17 you currently use. And they're like, what? They're like, yeah, man, 17 slogans. That's what you got.
You gotta have a central message, and that message has gotta tie in, and you gotta. And that's where you find the most success. Is it's not like that's what the thing with the Super Bowl ads is that you get one that's just very. It's like you'll remember that one, but it's most successful when it's part of a larger campaign where that same voice and that same message is coming through on all those different platforms, and it's gonna pull someone to be emotionally connected and a part of that brand and why that brand deserves to be chosen over the next one.
That's a great point because, you know, Super Bowl ads, funny, right? A lot of people don't even care about football that much, but they love the Super Bowl because they get to watch the commercials, and then they judge the game whether or not the commercials were funny.
Exactly.
And that one about the thing was funny. Which the thing? I don't remember what the product was, but it was funny. The guy in the spacesuit playing paddleball on the sun was, wow, that was great. What was the product? I don't know, fly swatters? Like what?
Yeah.
What?
That beer squirrel ad was just fantastic. But I don't remember anything else.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Oh yeah. Remember the Doritos one with the I'm just making reference. I'm not infringing. Don't get licensed crazy on me. With the time machine one with the cardboard box, and then they played the trick on that guy, and they put the kid in, and he ran away, and the elderly guy came out from the box after the smoke and mirrors and stuff all fired up, and it was like, Dad or whatever. Remember that?
I don't remember that one. I don't remember that one, but I think that also me saying that speaks to the message that we're trying to get at.
See? I didn't remember it was Doritos until I saw it like 1,800 other times, because most Super Bowl ads pull out in media, especially in the broadcast world, in either snippets or full-length versions of that same commercial, which speaks to top-of-mind awareness and frequency. You can't have frequency of a message if every place you look is a different splintered message. I got one over here, I got one over there, I got one over here, I got one over there, I got one over there, I got one over here. That makes it even more confusing. I'm not saying that it should be an identical script. I'm saying we should keep the cadence the same. We should be on the same topic. Too many times we see people thinking they have to advertise everything to everybody. It's not a Vegas buffet. We don't have a mile-long table for people to take a piece of everything and try it. We have to figure out what is important to whom and match up vehicle and other things to talk to that or speak with that particular group, right?
Exactly. If my company only sells green t-shirts, why am I going to have 10 different ads in 10 different colors of t-shirts? That doesn't make any sense, and people are going to be like, this guy's all over the place.
Or if you want to sell something other than a green t-shirt, because the inventory is low on green t-shirts, be one of the first 15 callers today. The direct response is so simple, right, compared to what we do. Be one of the first 15 callers today, and for 50% off, we'll send you a white t-shirt so you have one in another color. And then all of a sudden, we're breaking out another swim lane of opportunity for people, right?
Exactly.
But we're not in the direct response mode, are we?
No,
cars, because people want to taste them, touch them, smell them, drive them. And speaking of driving, I know that we need to drive on down the road to our next show, our next episode. So with that said, I think we've come to the end of this particular episode. And as always, man, thanks for everything that I do. This is fun.
I'm having a good time. I don't know if everybody else is having a good time. I'm having a fantastic time.
So don't forget to like us and share it. And we're syndicated, so all podcast platforms, right? Our website address is
www.cardealer.com. carguysimple.com.
Or you can leave the W's off and just write carguysimple.com and get in either way. Even the old guy knows that. Boom.
Yeah.
Right? So thanks. Tell everybody. Check out our website. Send in questions. Bring up some topics to us. If you want to hear more about Zorches, hit us.
Yeah.
Thanks again. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you real soon. Take care.
If you have a topic you want us to discuss, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to send Joe and Eaman an email at joe@carguysimple.com or eaman@carguysimple.com. This is the Car Guy Simple Podcast. See you next time.